Skypiea, the clouded island 10,000 meters above the blue sea. Far out of sight, though not out of mind, its very existence is called into question. There is no hard evidence for it, just rumor, legend, and some reasoned explanation. In part, it's faith that drives adventurers to finding it. Faith in the log pose that Robin insists is in perfect working condition. Faith in the words of a man long dead who history has decided to ridicule. But his descendant, Mont Blanc Cricket, isn't blindly faithful, using science and reason to come up with plausible theories, devising a method to reach this land in the sky. How ironic then that the Sky Island is in fact the severed part of the still earthbound Jaya, home of the pointedly named Mock Town, the rough and tumble city dominated by pirates, treasuring their infamy above deed. These are men out for personal gain, and the temptation of the legendary City of Gold isn't enough to stir them, as there's no fame to be had in the incredibly risky discovery. Representing this idea is Bellamy the Hyena, who doesn't merely stop at mocking the dreamers, resorting to violence and theft. As the main antagonist of the Jaya arc, he fills this role perfectly. Though he claims the Sky Island doesn't exist, he makes no effort to disprove any counter-evidence, merely sitting back on his chair and laughing at the very possibility of him being wrong, or actively hindering the progress of others for his own minor, personal gain. But in stealing the gold Cricket had salvaged and damaging the Going Merry, he's accomplished nothing. When Bellamy first encounters Luffy, he and Zoro refuse to fight back as Bellamy and his men wail on him for much the same reason. The argument rests on the existence of Skypiea, and no matter who holds the gold or who wins the bar brawl, nothing is proven. Thus Luffy decided that there was no need to fight until he was actively being hindered. Their battle is deliberately one divorced from the ideologies driving it. Luffy beating Bellamy doesn't prove the Sky Island, so as he leaves he boldly proclaims his real intentions. Luffy's victory only halts the hindrance that Bellamy was, and it's gratifying, but not as gratifying as proving the existence of Skypiea would be. But while the conflict between Bellamy's spiteful rejection of the unbelievable and Cricket's proactive efforts in discerning the truth led to one of the most memorable moments in the series, often forgotten is the reasonable doubter, standing at the sidelines, questioning everything, but still willing to put in the effort to find out the facts. Nami. She is an intelligent, cautious, and logical person, so it's only the natural response, especially when you account for her knowledge of nature's science. How could a cloud bear the weight of life? So when she asks about the Sky Island at the bar, and Bellamy's entire crew laughs at her, her reaction is not her typical one of anger or frustration, but rather embarrassment, likely stemming from the fact that on some level, she agrees with them. Luffy and Zoro have no interest in what Bellamy thinks and don't care to entertain his thoughts, but Nami connects to Bellamy's incredulity because a part of her does think it's ridiculous, but she's still willing to ask for them because these are her comrades, and she wants what's best for them. Luffy seems to find little more enjoyable than discovering something new to him, but Nami doesn't have that same desire. She doesn't have that inherent thrill of finding something new. Her goal is to map the whole world, but this isn't because she wants to see all those places, she just wants the satisfaction of achieving something no one else has, because no one but her could make that achievement. If she were interested in the idea of exploration or potential treasures, then when Eneru offered to take her to the Endless Farce, a mythic-sounding place legendary to the Sky People whose home sounded legendary to the Blue Sea dwellers as it was, she might have accepted. But even with the opportunity of such a discovery within reach, she denies the far more powerful Eneru, who's only interested in discovery for his own benefit, much like the Liveneel Kingdom's greedy desire for the gold of Shandora. What Nami gets from discovery isn't the thrill of it, nor is it personal benefit, but by seeing her friends find something new and enjoy it, not for the sake of how the discovery could benefit them, but simply for the sake of discovery, she's able to vicariously feel some of that enjoyment herself, in part because of her role in it. Her lack of thrill and discovery is what led her to question Skypiea every step of the way, but upon arriving, she's awarded for challenging her skepticism when Skypiea turns out to be made for her. She takes to the waiver like she was born to ride it, skipping the long journey to mastery the natives go through on sheer talent. And after her cartography knowledge and smarts help her deduce where the City of Gold is, a party breaks out because of how joyful everyone is. Not because of a victory, just because they have a chance to explore and find something more after the initial success in finding the already mythical Sky Island in the first place. And as Skypiea is explored, these ideas of faith and progress are only expanded on even further. It's no accident that the kings of the sky are called gods, after all. But the real focus of faith comes in during the Nolan flashback, in which the famous explorer finds Shandora, its people highly superstitious, engaging in blood sacrifices in an effort to please their ancestors who look upon them and the snake gods they worship. But Nolan opposes these barbaric practices, because it's all senseless, as that which ails the Shandians, the deadly tree fever, is a disease already mastered by the Liveneel Kingdom Nolan hails from. The blind faith is called into question, and resolved by science and reason over adherence to the tradition outdated. In contrast to how Bellamy, faithless in the possibilities of the log pose, never even tried to reach the Sky Island and derided its existence, the Shandians never questioned their traditions, even as they utterly failed to alleviate their suffering and nearly brought themselves to ruin through having too much faith. But the conflict of traditionalism and progress isn't so simple as to stop things there. After the Shandians realized that their ancestor trees, said to hold the souls of their predecessors called back by the Grand Golden Bell, were infected with the same tree fever that nearly wiped out the whole island, they changed their tradition, using the bell to allow Noland a way to return to the island after having mistakenly scorned him for his help after he'd already proven his goodwill. Luffy's ringing of the bell finally allowed it to return to the protection of the Shandians, where they can continue to ring it so that great goodwill explorers like Luffy and Noland can come to share their ideas and culture. Ganfor's love of pumpkin juice representing the benefits of positive cultural exchanges, the plant having been introduced to the sky from Jaya, and to Jaya from Noland. But even beyond some of their traditions being recontextualized, even through the blind following of others, they are still rewarded for protecting the bell in the first place, a positive tradition that hurt no one meaninglessly. While they didn't know the reason it was important, the truth is that many traditions likely come into practice for good reason. Burying or burning bodies makes perfect sense even without the tradition of funerals and remembrance, but we still practice them anyway for a sense of closure. And so, the Shandians went for generations of protecting the bell, or more specifically, the poneglyph. For years, only knowing that the ancestors they respect and fought so much died against a great foe to do so. In protecting the poneglyph, they were preserving the desires of their ancestors and continuing that legacy without knowing its full extent. And those desires had a meaningful purpose in that they stood against the world government, a group covering up a massive conspiracy, but hindering progress by destroying knowledge in doing so, merely to protect their own seat of power. When Robin finally brings closure to their deed by translating the poneglyph, the Shandians can rest knowing that they have fulfilled their ancestors' wishes in going through with these traditions. And through building the setting, through tackling these ideas of doubt, faith, tradition, progress, and perhaps above all, exploration, Skypiea instills within me a sense of faith in the idea of the world of One Piece and the author's ability to realize that world. The advent of the arc is heralded by the reading of a quote by a fictional physicist, Willie Gallen, stating, "Anything man can imagine is possible in reality." In truth, what is the world of One Piece? It can never actually be the massive setting with hundreds of islands and cultures we're led to believe it is. It's only an artistic abstraction. The only islands that we know to exist are the ones we see, but just because we can't see it, with a bit of evidence to counter the reasonable doubt, we can assume it's there. We can assume the blue seas are populated by hundreds of islands because it's shown to be reasonable, and that's the craft, the illusion of world building. It feels like a huge, internally consistent world, one that we want to explore alongside the characters, because as ridiculous as it might be, the idea of there being an entire ocean in the sky, with such rich cultures and customs practiced by those within it, tickles a certain wanderlust, in ways so few other works of fiction truly can, and Skypiea above all arcs in the series captures that feeling of adventure better than any other. The fact that it's so separated from the rest of the world only further drives home the idea of it being an adventure, not one for the sake of fame or gold, but adventure for the sake of adventure itself. Whether you connect to Luffy's love of finding new things or Nami's ability to vicariously enjoy it by the side, Skypiea is rewarding no matter how you look at it, because it reminds us that there will always be more just on the next horizon. Special thanks to my patrons such as Vladimir, Volkion, and Mathwiz for making videos like this possible, and thank you for watching.